Hi everybody, welcome back. I'd like to thank everybody that attended our seminars in Japan and Hong Kong. It was excellent. We had a lot of great information, a lot of people attended, and I really appreciate everybody for showing up. And for those of you who weren't able to make it, we'll be doing these on a regular basis, so hope to catch you next time. Today we're going to start with answering some questions. I get bombarded with just thousands of questions about health and how to manage different issues. And we're going to go through some of the most common questions I get. One of the ones that I get very frequently is, how do I detox heavy metals out of my body? And variations of that question. So we get a lot of those, and we're going to start with some basic concepts that you really need to understand if that's a concern for you. The first one being, if you want to detox your body from heavy metals, is that we want to stop exposing ourselves to those heavy metals as much as possible. We want to eliminate that exposure, whether that be from environmental issues in our surroundings, where we live, where we work. We want to stop that exposure as much as possible, and we definitely want to stop the exposure that's coming directly into our body via our foods and medicines. That's unfortunately where most people are getting their exposure to these heavy metals, is via the foods they eat and the things that are getting injected into their bodies via vaccines and other drugs and medications. So you really want to stop putting that stuff into the body, because you can detox all you want, but if you keep putting it back in, you're defeating the purpose a bit. And so that's step number one, is we want to eliminate that. Number two, we want you to understand just how simple some of these detox things can be if you get the right ingredients in your food or your whole food supplements. We find that some of the absolute, hands down, most potent methods to detox the body come in the forms of certain greens and sea vegetation. And we see that even some of these greens are able to grab onto various heavy metals like lead and mercury, and others are even able to detoxify the body from radiation. This was a hot topic of discussion that we had over in Japan, as while I was attending these seminars, it was the 4th anniversary of the big tsunami and earthquake, and as part of that tragedy they had a nuclear disaster with the Fukushima plant. That is still very, very problematic and very much on the minds of these Japanese people, because that radiation is still leaking out into the ocean, into the environment, and they're getting that through their fish and other exposure. And it's a big concern. And they also have a lot of contamination coming out of the mainland of China that gets released into the atmosphere and into the water. So this really is a big concern for them over there, as well as us here in the US. And so we want to make sure that you understand that we can do this. Now here's some problems that I want to help you avoid. There are certain things, certain greens, I'll give you an example like cilantro, that's very good in releasing sequestered toxins in the cells. And another way of saying that, if you're using it by itself, is you're going to release toxins into the bloodstream. You're poisoning yourself if you're not also using that in conjunction with some other greens that can actually grab onto those heavy metals, bind to them, and then flush them out of the body. So you got to be careful. You don't want to just go willy-nilly into this without some information, because some of these greens will just release those toxins that are stored in the body into the bloodstream, in other words, poisoning yourself. And you've got to have something there that it's going to bind to, so that it makes it non-toxic to the body, because it's binding and then pulling it out of the blood. And so we want to look at a good greens complex. The premium greens is one of my favorites as a really heavy detoxer. If you aren't exposed to really heavy metals on a regular basis and you don't need something so extreme, you can also just use the premium feast, which has a large amount of greens. These very greens are included for that type of reason, because we know that it works so well in not only helping the body get rid of these toxins by binding to them and getting flushed out, but they also are very neuroprotective in behavior. Things like broccoli sprouts and mature broccoli used together are extremely neuroprotective and are going to help detoxify the body on both sides. So get a lot of water in. You want that body being hydrated so the body can use this water, and think of a stagnant pond versus a nice clear running mountain spring. We want to get lots of water through it. We want to get lots of greens in the diet, and and where you're lacking in those greens, get a good supplement like the premium greens or the premium feast to allow your body to do what it's supposed to and get this stuff out of the body, because these heavy metals are toxic, they are causing damage, they are causing mutations to your cells, they are going to result in disease if you get an overload of this, and you want to get them out and relieve that burden from your liver and your kidneys and your brain, because these things are going to start building up over time, and you do not want to suffer those consequences. So start today with a good detox, and we'll catch you next time with some more questions. Thanks.